Hi, I'm Charles with Handicap. The story begins in a world that has magic. Everyone can use magic at their will, and in this world, magic is a natural part of everyday life. Magic is believed to be a gift bestowed by God, and mastery of magic determines one's social status. However, deep in the forest, there is one whose existence defies the natural order. This man's name is Mash, and he enjoys a cream puff after a vigorous workout. Elsewhere, a man named Regro Burndead explains that he lives with his son in the forest, far from other humans. He explains how he has learned to manage stress over the years, but is shocked when Mash makes his entrance. Even after living in this house his entire life, Mash explains that he couldn't remember if he was supposed to push or pull to open the door. An apology is enough to calm Regro, but the feeling is short-lived as Mash attempts to fix the door and only ends up making it worse. Afterwards, Regro makes sure that Mash finished his morning training, and Mash questions why all his workouts are physical. Regro thinks about how Mash is special as he is not able to use magic at all, but doesn't tell him and simply states that it's a story for another time. Regro must leave for now, and Mash states that he will learn how to fix the door, but Regro would rather he learn how to open and close it before anything. As he leaves, Regro reminds Mash, like he has several times in the past, that he must never venture into the city while he is gone. Mash agrees as Regro points out how honorable his son is, but we see that soon after, Mash can't ignore the call of an empty stomach as he heads to the city. In the city, Mash notices all the ways people use magic, but points out how they're all just doing stuff that can be done with their hands. He arrives at his destination where he orders 7 limited cream puffs, but finds that he got too excited and accidentally crushed his coins. Mash then fixes them with very little effort, shocking the man with his strength. After this, Mash's hood comes off and people nearby are horrified when they notice something missing on his face. The chef holds himself back from asking about it, leaving Mash completely unaware as to why they are staring at him. Elsewhere, a man named Brad laments living his dull life in such a dull place, but we strangely see that a chained up man begs him for forgiveness. The chained man tries to explain that he only stole a little something, but Brad points out how it just caused him to have more work to do. Brad plans to teach the man to never cause him trouble again, but he is interrupted by information about an unmarked person being in the city. Back in the city, Mash thinks about how sorry he is about breaking his promise to his father, but states how it was worth it since he was able to eat goblin cream puffs. Mash accidentally bumps into a drunk member of the magic police, who complains about getting little pay and no respect. He threatens to take out his rage on Mash, so Mash offers him a cream puff. The policeman becomes more enraged to be pitied, especially considering that the cream puff is half eaten. The man is furious about the cream on his uniform, so Mash tears it off his body and offers to clean it. The policeman furiously points out how it isn't a shirt anymore, but Brad arrives to break up the altercation. Brad realizes that the boy before him is the unmarked person he was told about, and wonders how he could casually be eating cream puffs in this situation. He approaches Mash, but Regro appears from nowhere to take him away. Brad won't let his opportunity for a promotion get away, and casts a spell meant to find them. Back home, Regro scolds Mash for going to the city alone, but another apology convinces Regro that Mash really regrets his actions. He accepts his son's apology, but explains that as punishment, Mash will have to do his morning workout again. Mash leaves his father with some cream puffs as Regro opens the door for him. Regro thinks about how Mash must now be at the age where he wants to get out, as they have lived his entire life in hiding deep in the forest for Mash's sake. The magic police have caught wind of his son now though, so Regro decides that he must act quickly. It's too late though, as Brad's magic has found his house, and Brad arrives in search of the boy who is unmarked. Elsewhere in the forest, Mash does his intense workout, demonstrating his incredible strength, and states that he only needs 5 minutes when he is really focused. He arrives home baffled once again about how to open the door, as he overhears a man question if Regro knew about something and if it's the reason he was hiding Mash. Brad points out that magic has flourished since the dawn of time, because mankind has aggressively rid themselves of inferior blood unable to use magic. He states that it's a necessary sacrifice, and those that can't use magic do not deserve the privilege to live. Regro refuses to say anything about the boy, so Brad explains that sheltering the unmarked is a serious offense. Regro takes a beating for not saying anything, and thinks about how he grew up as a failure. His magic had always been very weak, and he was talked down to for it constantly. Things had gotten so bad that he was about to take his own life, but he stopped when he found Mash as a baby. Regro instantly realized that this baby was abandoned for being unmarked and decided to care for him since they were the same. It was the first time in Regro's life that he felt like someone needed him. He thinks about how even if they're not related by blood, even if the entire world denied Mash's existence, he will always be a father to the boy. Brad asks one last time for the boy's location, but Regro screams for Mash to run instead. Brad has his men search for the boy as Regro cries for his son to run, and Brad continues to beat on him. Regro thinks about how Mash is his one and only and persists in his attempt to get his son to run. Brad prepares to make the old man pay for not cooperating, but Mash breaks through the door and makes his presence felt with a powerful punch. Mash tears the cop's second shirt of the day and makes quick work of him. He explains to Regro that he didn't run because they are family, and Regro is all he's got. Mash apologizes for not running like his father instructed, but decides that he might as well take these guys down while he is there. Brad mocks him for thinking he can defeat them without using magic, and the shirtless cop thinks about how Brad used to be on the Bureau of Magic security force. Brad is confident that he can end the fight in 3 seconds, and the cop is ecstatic to see him use the spell that once drove away a dragon. It's an incredibly powerful spell, but everyone is shocked to see that Mash is completely unharmed. Brad realizes that Mash simply slapped the attack away, and wonders how that could even be possible. Brad begins his next attack, and the cop tries to stop him as he fears that Brad might destroy the entire area with that type of energy output. Brad unleashes this even more powerful attack, but Mash once again just slaps it away. Brad continues trying to harm the boy, but Mash just keeps coming up with more and more interesting ways of nullifying the attacks. Brad wonders if Mash can actually use magic as Mash picks up his father's wand, but states that it doesn't matter since ordinary magic can never break his defense. He is utterly stunned though, as Mash doesn't use magic at all, but instead throws the wand to completely destroy Brad's defense. Mash explains that he will kill Brad if he ever threatens his family again, and Regro wonders how this amount of strength could be possible since the training was only supposed to help Mash with self-defense. Regro is certain that they are doomed though, as even if they get Brad to flee, this will only bring trouble going forward. Brad laughs as he states that he will let Mash and his father go as long as he makes a deal with him. He explains that once a year, one exceptional student is revered as one of God's chosen. Brad instructs Mash to enroll in a magic school and be chosen. It's called Divine Visionary, and it simply means that being selected means God has accepted you. This means society will accept this person as well. Brad explains that he will back Mash the entire way, but he wants the fortune and prestige that comes with it. Regro doesn't want Mash to agree, but Brad explains that if he refuses, he will hunt them down for the rest of their lives. He points out how miserable their lives will be always having to run, and Mash decides to agree to the deal. Regro thinks his son is insane for agreeing to go to a magic school since Mash can't use magic, but Mash is confident that his motivation is stronger than anyone else's. Mash just wants him and his father to live in peace again, so he heads to the magic school soon after. Mash refuses to live in a world that won't allow him to live in peace with his father, and decides that he has no choice but to crush it with his fists instead. He arrives at the very prestigious Easton Academy, where less than 3% of applicants get admitted into the school. Up above, a professor named Claude observes all the students and points out how ambitious they all are. He notices how intensely they prepare their magic for the exam, but is then stunned to see one student lifting weights. Claude is convinced that he is just imagining what he is seeing, just as he notices that Mash is doing the invisible chair while reading a fitness book. As if this wasn't strange enough, Claude notices the two guys doing a very poor job of trying to hide nearby. Regro wonders if the plan will really work, and Brad points out how he made Mash's fake scar indistinguishable from a real one. Claude is confident that a slacker like him won't even get close to passing the exams, and reveals himself to everyone to explain that he will be the one overseeing the exams. Claude revels in how everyone is admiring him so much, but Mash just states how it must have hurt coming out of the fire when Claude introduced himself. Claude thinks about how he's definitely going to flunk this slacker of a student, and instructs everyone to get ready for the first exam. Claude brings forth desks with magic, but becomes annoyed when Mash points out that he could have just taken them to a classroom. The first exam begins, and Mash is shocked as Claude explains that he casts a spell that makes all the letters move around on the page. The exam requires students to remove the spell, so Rugger loses all hope in his son's success as Brad wonders why he ever thought his plan would work. Mash astounds them though when he threatens the words with his strength and the words stop moving for him. Claude is certain that Mash's paper will be a mess, but is amazed when he sees the words have lined up perfectly. From that point on, Mash found ways to pass all the exams, including running on water and pretending to make a boulder float when he was actually using his thumb. Claude can't believe the slacker has passed to this point and decides to end his progress with a maze. It's no ordinary maze as there are several traps throughout, and he only gives students 30 minutes to get out. Mash thinks it should be easy to get out, and a girl named Lemon asks to tag along as it would be more efficient if they worked together. Mash agrees but quickly finds that this girl isn't helping very much as she is in constant need of his help. She constantly asks him to not leave her behind as Mash wonders how this could possibly be more efficient. Lemon stops him from moving forward and apologizes as she states that she has a secret reason for keeping him from reaching the end. She points out how her magic can't be broken with human strength, but is shocked when Mash breaks free. He leaves her behind just as a guardian appears and asks her a riddle. She doesn't have the answers, so she prepares for her punishment as she apologizes in her head for deceiving Mash. However, the guardian is stopped as Mash returns, and he explains that he came back just in case her reason for doing what she did was similar to his. She is grateful as she points out how they are out of time, but Mash reminds her how fast he was able to come back. Outside the maze, Claude is certain that Mash will fail after sending the guardian after him and recruiting Lemon to stop him. Everyone is shocked, however, as they hear loud noises, and Claude can't believe it as the walls are 1 meter thick and impervious to all magic. After Mash bursts through though, everyone wonders if what he did was cheating, but the headmaster of the school watches the curious young man. The other students don't like it as they begin chants for him to go home, and Mash feels terrible as he explains that he would rather be home as well. Lemon screams for them to stop though as Claude demands that she stop talking. She ignores him though and reveals that she was trying to get in Mash's way the entire time. She reveals that Claude agreed to pass her if she did so, and she only wanted to do it because her family is poor and she wanted to help them. Claude is completely unapologetic and wonders what's so wrong about failing students he doesn't think deserve to pass. He insults Lemon for betraying him and states that she must be as stupid as her parents. Claude decides to fail them both and instructs them to challenge him if they disagree. He is confident they won't stand a chance against him, but is shocked when Mash destroys his wand in an instant. Claude is furious, but Headmaster Wahlberg arrives to break up the fight. The headmaster will be taking charge of the exam moving forward, and explains that interviews are next. Mash is called to be interviewed first as he finds that several people are there to watch it. The headmaster's questions are about how Mash went back to save Lemon, even though he didn't have enough time during the exam. Mash points out how he did it since he thought he would regret not doing it. The headmaster is astounded as it doesn't seem like Mash even considered that the guardian would be stronger than him, or even that he wouldn't be able to break the walls. Mash explains that even if he considered those things, saving her still had to be done. The headmaster points out how Mash can only think that way because of his inexperience, but wonders what Mash would do if he faced something that overwhelmingly outpowered him. The headmaster then shocks everyone as he uses an extremely powerful spell. He explains that it is an ancient spell that transfers the soul of the target's most cherished one into a doll. For Mash, that is his father, and the headmaster goes on to say that when the blade pierces the doll, then the person's soul will never return to them. Mash instantly tries to destroy the blade, but the headmaster reminds him that he is immensely more powerful than Mash. He asks Mash again what he would do in such a situation, and Mash shocks everyone when he puts his hand under the blade. Mash points out how he has realized that this is now a test of endurance. The headmaster begins to end the spell as he explains that power can be used to either harm or help, and so he puts emphasis into helping the weak and regulating the strong. He has gained confidence in Mash and apologizes for testing him so harshly. Mash accepts the apology and decides to answer the question about what he would do if he ever had to fight against the headmaster. Mash confidently states that he would simply beat the stuffing out of him using his fists, which shocks everyone, but the headmaster simply welcomes Mash to Easton Magic Academy. Rego's soul returns to him and we see that Mash is in class soon after. The first lesson in class is the lock opening spell, and the professor is shocked as Mash simply opens the lock with his bare hands. A boy named Finn nearby sees how strange Mash is and hopes that he doesn't end up talking to him. To his absolute surprise, Finn finds that Mash has broken the door to his room, and Mash explains that they are roommates. Mash apologizes ahead of time for not knowing much about anything, and Finn begins to think Mash might not be so strange after all. However, Mash begins to introduce Finn to his muscles that he has given names to, and Finn realizes he was right all along. Mash asks about how to become a divine visionary, and Finn explains that one must collect gold coins. Students are evaluated on absolutely everything, and given coins gold, silver, or bronze based on the evaluations. On top of that, students must keep their grades up to avoid expulsion, and Mash is overwhelmed by it all. Finn is friendly to Mash but thinks about keeping his distance, and the two eat cream puffs together. Sometime later, Mash asks Finn to lend him a broom since he accidentally brought a stick thinking it was a broom. In class, students learning to fly on a broom are told to put magic into it as they say the word fly. Mash is determined to restore peace to his and his father's life, but is disheartened when the broom doesn't respond when he says the word fly. A student begins to mock him but is shocked when Mash stomps the floor and says the word fly once it's already in his hand. The student challenges Mash to a race and thinks about how it will be impossible for him to lose since he has been riding brooms his entire life. The professor wonders if Mash can even ride a broom as he begins the race, but is dumbfounded when Mash instantly wins. Everyone is shocked to see that Mash has set the new world record, and Finn seems to be the only one who got a good look at what happened. He thinks about how Mash instantly threw the broom and immediately jumped out towards it so that he could mount it. The defeated student refuses to accept his loss, but a friend of his named Cavil shuts him up. The other students are terrified to see that Mash has become Cavil's new victim, and decide it would be best to stay out of it. Cavil explains that he was really impressed by Mash and requests to be friends, but Mash just points out how strange his name is. Cavil seems to become upset, but the professor interrupts them. Cavil points out how funny he thinks Mash is and invites him to meet there again after school. Cavil shows how horrible he is as he beats up his friend for failing him and states that Mash is his new toy. Elsewhere, Finn explains that everyone fears Cavil because he is the son of a high-ranking member at the Bureau of Magic. A vice principal seems to have close ties to their family, so anyone that stands against him will get expelled. After school, Mash makes his own cream puffs as he thinks about how he must become the strongest student at the school. He can't help but feel like he has forgotten something as we see that Cavil is furious to see that Mash never showed up. The next day, Mash tells Cavil that he missed their meeting since he was making cream puffs, and Cavil puts aside his frustration to explain that he has connections that might help Mash become the divine visionary. Cavil wants Mash to do whatever he wants in exchange, and Mash excitedly agrees. Sometime later, Mash finds that another one of his books has been destroyed by someone, and Finn begins to decline his request for help, but Mash sits next to him anyway. Finn points out how he said no, but Mash just calls him a lifesaver. Finn is surprised when Mash offers him some cream puffs and expresses how glad he is to have such a good person as a friend. Afterwards, Cavil intentionally spills water and has Mash clean it up. Cavil leaves to explain to his group that he has grown tired of having them destroy Mash's books, and wants them to burn his clothes instead. Surprisingly, we see that Finn is part of this group, but he has now decided that he can't keep tormenting Mash. Cavil is furious as he punishes Finn, and we see that Mash searches for Finn to return his book. He finds Cavil, who simply explains that he is getting an apology from Finn. Mash is concerned about Finn's wounds, but Finn states that something else is more important and admits to being the one that destroyed his books. He reveals that he was too afraid to disobey Cavil's orders, but apologizes profusely. Cavil tells Mash to just leave the loser Finn behind, as he is finally ready to introduce him to the vice principal. Cavil points out that Mash will never get anywhere hanging around with people that only apologize, but Mash destroys him and explains that he is the one that should be apologizing. The others are shocked as this will certainly get him expelled. Mash isn't sure if that is actually a big deal, but soon realizes that he might have done something bad. Vice Principal Farman arrives to explain that he definitely has done something bad. Farman explains that a meeting will be held to discuss Mash and Finn's role in the incident. He points out that the two of them and Cavil are of different social status, and this means they will receive different treatment. He calls them idiots as he begins to explain the way of the world, but everyone is shocked when Mash knees him in the face. Mash explains that Furman didn't seem too open to reasoning. Furthermore, he already attacked one bully, so he didn't see the harm in attacking another. Furman prepares to expel Mash, but is shocked to be attacked again. He notices dirt everywhere and is stunned when Mash simply reveals that he is burying him. The vice president explains that he can expel Mash whenever he wants, but Mash points out that he can bury the vice president whenever he wants. Mash then continues the burial as Furman begs for him to stop. Sometime afterward, the headmaster asks Mash if he knows why he has been summoned, and he confidently states that it's because he made cream puffs in the dorm kitchen. This of course is incorrect, as the headmaster explains that he has received a notice from the Bureau of Magic to expel him immediately for his attack on Cavil and the vice principal. The Bureau of Magic is the country's highest legal authority, and at the core of their organization are the Divine Visionaries. Cavil is the son of a high-ranking member, so what Mash has done is unforgivable. The headmaster destroys the order though, and explains that there are frighteningly few people like Mash who are willing to sacrifice themselves and act. This is why the headmaster sincerely hopes that someday, someone like Mash will become a Divine Visionary. Mash states that it's exactly what he plans to do, and the headmaster explains how he will have to do it. First, he must become the top student at the academy, which requires gathering enough coins through schoolwork and activities. More explaining just overwhelms Mash, so the headmaster simply states that he needs to earn high marks in his classes and school activities to acquire as many coins as possible. Furthermore, there is one more problem Mash will eventually have to face, but the headmaster has faith that he will overcome it. After all this, Mash ends up with no punishment for defeating Cavil and the vice president, and he in fact became someone that all the other students acknowledged. Afterwards, Mash is invited by a guy named Tom to play a match of a game called Duelo. It is the #1 sport in the magic realm and players compete using brooms. Mash tries to explain that he can't ride a broom, but Tom wants him to stop being so modest since Mash amazed everyone in class the other day. The next day, Mash participates in the match as he reiterates that he can't ride a broom, but his teammates believe in him since he set a world record in class. The match begins as it is explained that the winner will receive silver coins. Players fly around on brooms and fans cheer feverishly, but we see that Mash is stuck on the ground. He states once again that he can't fly, as fans boo him and tell him to go home. Mash would rather be home also, but if he doesn't fly now and goes home, then he won't be able to give his father the peaceful life Mash wants him to have. Thanks for watching part 1, all other parts will be in a pinned comment below.